Hi guys, welcome to Healthcast's second episode. We have a very special guest with us today, and we are going to discuss a very interesting topic, which is of pregnancy. It is one of the most important parts of a woman's life. While it comes with a lot of joy, there are a lot of concerns which come with pregnancy. There are a lot of haves and have-nots, do's and don'ts. And since through Healthpad we are focusing on preventive care, it is important that we generate as much awareness as possible. We have a very special guest with us today who's going to share her experiences with us on this topic. She is a fitness trainer, she's a fitness influencer, she is a travel and lifestyle influencer as well. We will be adding her Instagram handle in the description below. She's a new mom to a 6-month-old baby, and I'm glad to have her with us today to share her experience and burst the top 6 pregnancy myths. So, hi, Nintendo, how are you?
Sonali, how are you? I'm well, thank you.
I'm great. How's the baby?
She's keeping me on my toes. So yeah, and not sleeping too much, but yeah, she's such a blessing. I'm excited about this motherhood journey. So I'm sure you can hear her in the background.
Yes, I'm glad. I'm glad she's there in the background to add to the whole theme that we are talking about. And I follow you on Instagram, so I've seen all the stories, and she's so wonderful. I know there must be a lot which must be going on for you. So thank you for taking out time for this, and it really helping us get this through. So thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yep. So, are we good to get started?
Yeah, we can get started. Sure.
Okay. So, just for our viewers, during this course of this short episode, we will be bursting the top 6 pregnancy myths. And like I said, when it comes to pregnancy or any other health-related activity or phase that a person might be going through, there are a lot of information out there. We don't know what to trust. So that's why we've got someone with us who's been through that journey and who can really help us answer some of those questions and tell us whether it's a myth or a fact. So we'll get started with our first myth. So we see a lot of information regarding food and diet in pregnancy, and people mention that pregnant women need to eat twice as much of what they would eat during their regular lifestyle. So how true is that?
That's not true. No, that's a myth. You really just need enough nutrition for yourself during pregnancy. The baby and the fetus will take from you what they need. That's just how Mother Nature's made it. That's how your body works. You really do not need to eat for 2 people. And even if you were eating for 2 people, if that was your choice, remember that the other person is a super tiny human with a super tiny stomach. So you would eat for yourself normally, and then you would eat for someone with a tiny tummy like this. So it really doesn't make that much of a difference to your own, just the size of what you're eating, the size of your plate. You should be eating protein, carbs, and getting all your vitamins. And you probably will have a blood test with your medical professional. So whether it's a midwife or your doctor, your obstetrician, your gynecologist, whoever, and they will tell you if you are lacking in any vital nutrients, and you can then supplement those. But no, that is definitely a myth. You shouldn't be eating for 2 people or eating twice as much just because you're pregnant. You should continue eating healthy. Or if you weren't eating healthy before, try to stick to a healthier diet and then get your nutritional supplements where you need them. Right in the beginning, when you are pregnant for the first time, or when you're initially pregnant and you're eating just for yourself, eventually your appetite, as the baby grows, your appetite actually does tend to grow. And so you are literally hungry a lot, or at least I was. My experience was I was hungry all the time. So it's still eating for myself, but the baby's also bigger and needs more nutrition. So I was eating pretty much every 2 hours, something like that. So I think that's probably where that misconception comes in, with the nutrition, as to eating for 2. You become, especially in your last trimester, the last month, you become so hungry, and you really just want to eat all the time. And I was carrying snacks just to go down the road to the grocery store. So it really is, it's challenging, because you're not used to eating that much, and your body just needs all the nutrients in the world, and your appetite triples or quadruples, or is actually tenfold. So it's a lot.
Absolutely. I think what you said absolutely makes sense. And it's great that we are busting these myths, because a lot of women are clueless about these things, because they hear a lot of things out there on the internet. And from some sources, they, tend to really misplace their diet, which then has negative effects on themselves as well as their pregnancies. So I'm glad we're talking about this. And since we just spoke about diet, I think there is also some information out there. When I was, just preparing for this interview, I just looked at the most Googled pregnancy questions. So there's also a myth around consuming coffee, that consuming coffee in the first trimester can lead to early miscarriage. How true is that? Are there any controlled amounts which are advised to take? Did you get any such advice during your pregnancy?
I did get a lot of advice from everyone, whether I asked them or not, about coffee. It's not entirely a myth. You should really limit the amount of coffee that you take, especially during the first part of your pregnancy, because it can lead to complications because of the caffeine. And generally, I think most medical professionals will tell you to limit it to around 200 milligrams, around there, like 2 cups of instant coffee. It really you shouldn't be consuming more than 200 milligrams, but you definitely can have coffee. And if you are a coffee addict when you fall pregnant, you can also substitute it with decaf, which is caffeine-free coffee. It tastes pretty similar. It's not the same. I agree. I know, I'm a coffee lover myself. It's not exactly the same, but it definitely can help you with any coffee cravings or anything like that, if you're battling to give it up, or if you're battling to decrease your coffee consumption. But yes, that's not completely a myth. You should definitely limit the amount of coffee, especially in the beginning stages of your pregnancy. And I'm still breastfeeding, so even afterwards, you still should look at the amount of coffee that you do drink, because it can affect the amount of breast milk that you produce as well. So always consult with your professional, your medical professional, whether it's your midwife or whoever, and they usually can definitely give you the advice you need. But from my experience and from the research that I did during my pregnancy, I found that it's definitely advisable to limit the caffeine.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. So we've got 2 great insights from this. I think one thing is, for all the coffee lovers, if you really want to drink coffee during that period, you should look at decaf substitutes. And I think that is going to be really helpful. And secondly, it is not just during pregnancy, but even post-pregnancy while you're breastfeeding. It's important to limit your caffeine intake and take it in accordance to whatever your physician or whatever the medical practitioner is suggesting you to. So I think this is an important information that we've got out of this. Since we've just spoken about coffee consumption, I think I have to ask about alcohol consumption as well. And we know excessive alcohol is harmful irrespective of whether you're pregnant or not. But I'm sure you need to be extra cautious during your pregnancy. So people say that you should, really stop alcohol consumption or limit yourself just to a glass of wine. So how true is that? Is there a defined limit? How does that work out?
Personally, I don't drink at all, whether I'm pregnant or not. So it wasn't even an option for me. I don't drink alcohol.
Okay.
It's not even religious for me. It's just a personal choice that I made probably very young, just very young. Like even as a teen, I didn't even experiment or anything when my friends were all experimenting. But definitely I did research a lot of stuff. And the alcohol thing came up a lot when I was doing research for my own pregnancy, because I cook with alcohol sometimes. So like, like red wine. So I'll make like a lasagna and I'll reduce the wine on the stove with the mince or anything like that. So I wanted to check if it is actually true that the alcohol evaporates anyway and it's not going to affect my baby, because you eat a fair bit later on in your pregnancy. So yeah, I don't drink, but I do use it in my food when I'm cooking. And so yeah, for drinkers, it's not advisable to stick to your normal drinking routine. It can impact your pregnancy a lot and your fetus as well. So because the alcohol can actually get through into the placenta and then get into the baby's bloodstream, and the baby's not like developed enough. It's not a full human yet, and the kidneys, the liver is not ready to kind of deal with alcohol, because it can get through to the baby. Definitely limit if you absolutely cannot quit alcohol during your 9 months, then look into some way where you can possibly replace it with a non-alcoholic wine or non-alcoholic. I'm sure drinkers won't agree that things taste similar and you can replace it, but look at other options, because it can be dangerous, especially in the initial stages of your pregnancy, right up until the end, actually, because your baby, I think the liver is one of the last organs to be formed, if I'm not mistaken. So it can't process it. Your baby's not ready. And the thing is, whilst there are some things that don't pass through the placenta, alcohol is not one of them. So it does pass through, and it will impact the baby somehow.
Absolutely. I think that's an important information that we've got on alcohol consumption. So thanks for that, Ntando. And I think, a lot of people just hear about these things that you shouldn't consume alcohol, but they don't really realize the repercussions of it unless, they are told or talked in these scientific terms. So I'm glad you spoke about it, and you mentioned that how ultimately it not just impacts your own health, but also the baby's health, and that can eventually lead to a problematic pregnancy. So that is something which is very important. Now, since we spoke about food a bit, I think I want to understand, you spoke about your appetite increasing, especially during the last trimester. So how does it work out in the postpartum period? Does your appetite automatically go down once you've conceived, or
no? Damn, this appetite, it doesn't go down. Okay, so it might go down for many women, but for me, my personal experience, because I'm exclusively breastfeeding my baby, so all my baby's nutrition comes from me, and my appetite did not go away. So I am still eating a fair bit, but definitely not even close to what I was in my last trimester. When my baby was developing in the womb, I ate every 2 hours. Now I still eat for one person, but my appetite is higher than it was before baby. So I still eat quite a bit to keep my breast milk up. I eat slightly differently, because before pregnancy, I ate quite a high protein diet with very medium carbs, medium to low, in fact, depending on how I was training. But now it's medium to higher carbs, just to make sure that my milk supply doesn't dwindle. And so it's not exactly the same. You don't just go back and switch up and start eating normally again just because your baby's come out now. If you are breastfeeding, you still need to keep your breast milk supply up. So you do actually tend to eat slightly more than you did before baby. And also your lifestyle changes. So you don't have too much time to invest in preparing your own meals, especially if you don't have help, because my baby was born during the pandemic, and so we chose not to get outside help for now until it's safer. So we don't have a nanny that lives with us or anything like that. It's just me. So I have to have quick meals, and I have to try and keep it as healthy as possible. but I don't have time. I don't have time to really go into detailed planning on every ingredient. And like before I had all the time in the world to plan every meal, and it was just me. And obviously also my husband, but he isn't home for every meal. And I had a very flexible schedule as a personal trainer. So yeah, it was easy back then, but now it's not so easy, and it's slightly different. You don't just switch back. And also, I actually forgot to mention that a lot of women will experience pregnancy differently. Like, we're not all going to be the same. And if you are high risk and you have underlying health conditions, you're definitely going to experience pregnancy very differently to everyone else. So it's always better to take your own body and your own needs into account at every step of your pregnancy. Because if you have something like gestational diabetes or high blood pressure or anything like that, that can impact your pregnancy and your baby, and your whole pregnancy experience will be different to someone who doesn't have a high risk pregnancy. So yeah, it's very unique, and I've heard that, and I've also read that even within yourself, like your own pregnancies are not going to be the same. Like my pregnancy, because this is my first baby, this pregnancy won't necessarily be the same as the next pregnancy. So I can't really go according to everything that happened this time round. It's going to be a great guide for me going forward, because it's still me and it's still my body and it's still my genes, but it's a different baby, and I'll be a different age, and I'll be at a different stage in my life back at that point. So it'll be slightly different to my first experience, but I'll still use it as to inform my next pregnancy, because I'm way more knowledgeable than I was before having a baby. So it will help, but each pregnancy is unique. Each woman's pregnancy is unique, and each woman's own pregnancies are unique.
Absolutely.
If you know what I mean.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. We totally understand that. And I think that is with every body, right? So that there is, every body reacts differently to different stimulus. So that
Absolutely.
is something which we all understand. And the reason we are having this kind of discussion is so as to lay broad guidelines, or just to generate awareness in this sphere, so that if there are any expecting mothers, or mothers who just conceived, they can really use this as a reference. Of course, they might or might not respond to all of these things, or all of these things might not apply to them, but it's good to just understand things in general about a healthy living during this period of time. So I'm sure
Absolutely.
this discussion is helpful in that. So you spoke about the food, and how you can't really get your diet back to normal because you're still breastfeeding. But since you yourself are a fitness trainer, and exercise is an important part of your being, if I may say so. So there are also myths in terms of the amount of exercise which you can do, whether you can do exercise or not during your pregnancy, post your pregnancy. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think for most women, if you're having a regular pregnancy that isn't high risk, and you're not, you don't have gestational diabetes, you don't have high blood pressure, there's no underlying conditions, it is absolutely safe, and it's actually encouraged to exercise during your pregnancy. So yeah, that is definitely a myth. To say to women don't exercise during pregnancy at all is a myth, and that needs to be burst. So yeah, but obviously we are all different, and we experience pregnancy differently. So if you are a woman who hasn't been exercising at all, and then you suddenly start exercising when you're pregnant, that doesn't make any sense. You can't just go from 0 to 10 just because you're suddenly pregnant and you want to keep healthy, or I don't know, maintain your weight. You need to start slowly. I'm not saying you can't suddenly have a healthier lifestyle since you're pregnant. It's possible, but you need to take it easy and take it slowly, and just consider that you are pregnant and you are growing a human inside you, and it's going to be challenging to your body in any way. And if you start something that your body's not used to, it'll be even more challenging. For me, in the first trimester, the sickness, like all day sickness, was a big issue. So sometimes you can't exercise. Sometimes you can barely walk from, one room to the other because you're dizzy and you're nauseous, and it's just, it's difficult. So you're not going to be able to, and you're not going to want to exercise. But then you kick into the second trimester, which for me was my favorite. And then you get back into your routine, and you develop your own pregnancy workout routine, and you try and stay healthy. You try and stay flexible. You try and keep stretching, breathing exercises, and a little bit of cardio and some weights. It's still definitely safe up to a certain point to continue with your weight exercises, and even your body weight exercises. You don't need to add dumbbells or any other weights to your workouts. And at every stage, just consult with your doctor. If you feel like you might not be able to, or it might become dangerous for you and your pregnancy, just consult with your medical professional, and they'll usually be able to advise you accordingly.
Of course. What about yoga? Do you practice yoga? And we see a lot of pregnant women getting advised, don't do heavy workouts, but you can always do yoga or light breathing exercises. What do you think about that?
Yes, I did. I did a lot of stretching. I didn't practice yoga as such because actually I like high intensity interval training. That's my chosen form of exercise. Sure. But definitely stretching. I'm a big advocate of stretching. So if yoga is the thing that you do and you love and you enjoy it, it's great. It's absolutely fantastic during pregnancy. At some point, you're probably going to have to stop because you're going to be too big. You're not going to be able to bend. You're not going to be able to do all the things that you used to be able to do in your yoga practice. But I definitely did do yoga throughout my pregnancy. It's specifically called prenatal yoga.
Okay.
So it's very tame yoga, and it can be boring if you're used to very high intensity interval training or very high intensity workouts or high adrenaline workouts, but it's definitely advisable. So even something like Pilates, it doesn't have to be just yoga. I think I enjoyed the Pilates more because it was still just stretching, and it was still prenatal Pilates, which isn't regular, but it's slightly more challenging than the yoga because the yoga was a little bit too calm for me, but it might just be exactly the right amount of calm for someone else. It's a good space to relax while you're still stretching, while you just getting in tune with your body, while you are just throughout your pregnancy, just to keep the focus on exactly what changes that are you experiencing. Can you hear my baby in the background?
I can. That's totally okay.
Yes, so I did do a lot of yoga during my pregnancy, but I don't regularly do yoga outside of pregnancy, and I'm probably not going to carry on with it since I've had the baby. But definitely stretching before exercise and stretching after exercise every single day, that I am a big advocate of. Like, that will always be a big deal.
Yes. So what from what we can understand out of it is, depending on your level of physical fitness, of course it's going to differ, but it's important to get your body moving, and it's good for you as well as for the baby, and that's very important.
Yes, that's correct. Yes. And there are going to be stages of your pregnancy where you can't actually work out, even if your heart desires it and you want to stay healthy and you want to keep moving, you just won't be able to. If you are experiencing nausea and fatigue, like many of us experience a lot of fatigue during pregnancy. So that is something that causes us to kind of give the exercise a break until such time as we, get back into feeling ourselves again.
Of course. I think that that's the most important, irrespective of whether you're pregnant or not. You have to respond to the way your body is behaving for that particular day. So that's of course important. Since you spoke about nausea and sickness, I think there is a very common myth which states that you experience sickness just in the morning, and that's how the name morning sickness comes. But I think you already spoke about how you can have all day sickness. So is it absolutely a myth that a lot of women get worried that why am I experiencing nausea and sickness in other parts of the day beyond just the morning routine? So what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's so understandable. It's understandable because obviously you hear on the TV, the woman's got morning sickness, or maybe you hear from your friend it's mornings. It's always called morning sickness. It's definitely not just in the morning. That is a huge myth. It is all day, every single day. I personally had it like a lot. In the first trimester, it is all day. It just will not leave you. Even when you're sleeping, you still feel sick. So it's definitely not just morning sickness. It is all day sickness. And some women are so lucky that they don't even experience any nausea. They don't vomit. They don't have all these symptoms. Each pregnancy is different, of course. So for me, my experience was every day, every single day, all day sickness. Not throughout the pregnancy, obviously. Some women do. I know a friend of mine who had all day sickness every day. I can't even imagine what she went through. Just thinking about my own experience in the first trimester when I had all day sickness, it was severe nausea, severe motion sickness. So don't feel worried if you are just not feeling sick in the morning and you're feeling sick all day. It is normal. I did definitely consult my obstetrician, and I was advised that it is normal. And there's usually nothing you can do about it, to be honest. I was prescribed vitamin B6, if I'm not mistaken, by my obstetrician, which did not help me. It might help other people with the nausea, but it didn't help my motion sickness. It didn't help my nausea. It's just something I had to go through, and I did go through. And thankfully it ended, and baby was healthy and mom was healthy and everything like that. But it is definitely not in the morning only, and it can hit you even if it's not all day for you like it was for me. It can hit you in the evening, it can hit you midday, it can be an afternoon sickness for you. Each pregnancy is different. All women tend to have their own specific time, but a lot of us do experience it all day, every day. So yeah, that is a myth.
I think that's important that we discuss about it, because I think this is one of the major things, in the most Googled questions on pregnancy, that, why am I feeling nauseous in the evenings? And, am I only supposed to experience morning sickness in the morning? But I think it's important that we discussed about this, and whoever watches this, expecting mothers, I'm sure they will derive from it and not get worried about this. And hopefully most of them turn out to be lucky who don't experience anything at all, or bare minimum.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think this can be a sort of guidebook for them to understand that it is not something which is abnormal. It is something which is totally normal to experience it throughout the day. You spoke about motion sickness, which brings me to the last myth, which is about traveling and flying during pregnancy. So, why is there a myth around flying during pregnancy, and are there any real repercussions of it, or is there something which you need to be extra careful of while traveling or while flying when you're pregnant?
I'm not sure why it actually is a myth. I don't know how that started, but definitely it should be safe for most of us to fly while we're pregnant. Even in the first trimester, I think that it may have started, like the rumor or the myth might have started because a lot of women tend to, if you're going to have a miscarriage, it tends to happen in the first trimester. And then if you do happen to fly during that first trimester, then you think, oh my word, is it because I flew, or is it because I was on that flight, or I traveled here, I traveled there? Which can be, I think it's coincidental, because on the whole, the research that's been done, because I actually researched this myself when I wanted to fly, because I flew to Dubai and back in my first trimester. So, and that was perfectly safe. So, and I did consult my obstetrician before flying, because I'd also heard this myth about flying, and she said it was safe, and yeah, it shouldn't have been an issue at all. So I think that probably it's something I wanted to avoid, because I was so sick and so nauseous, and you don't want to be sick and nauseous on a plane, because there's not much you can do. You can't walk it off, you can't go out, open the window and get some fresh air. So generally there's nothing unsafe about it. If you have a normal non-high risk pregnancy, and you don't have high blood pressure, and you don't have gestational diabetes, and you're of a generally normal childbearing age. If you don't have a high risk pregnancy, it should be safe for you to travel. It's just not going to be comfortable, because you will be exhausted, you will feel nauseous, or some of us do feel nauseous. And a lot of airlines will actually ask you for a letter from your GP saying that you have consulted with her or him, and that you have been approved to fly, especially when you are over like 30 weeks or like around 28 weeks. So the further along you are, the less likely that airlines will want to actually take you on board, or sell you an airline ticket, or fly you, just because you never know if your baby's going to be early, and then you're mid-air, and it's the air hostesses who have to help you, and they are trained to deal with first aid and giving birth, I guess. So it can happen like from 30 weeks, but it's generally not advised to fly after 37. I don't think any doctor is going to sign off on you flying from 37 weeks. But yeah, it should be safe. There isn't actually that much research saying don't fly. Generally, there really shouldn't be such a myth about it. It's perfectly safe. If you have a regular normal pregnancy and you have consulted your GP.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense from what you spoke.
Oh, and I forgot to say that it's actually, the longer the flight is, the less safe it becomes. So you want to limit the flights. And also I believe that there's actually blood clots that can form as well. The longer your flight is, you can form blood clots. And you get these socks. I actually bought a few myself before I flew. They're like pressure socks or stockings. So I have like 3 of them, and I like didn't even end up wearing them. But it's supposed to help like with the blood clots.
Okay.
But there is a risk of forming blood clots. I'm not sure why exactly it is more risky for women to during pregnancy to form these blood clots, but I assume it's probably hormonal, and also just the pressure of the fetus on your system. So in general, if you are healthy, there's no reason you shouldn't fly. But obviously, if you are high risk, try not to, unless it's absolutely necessary, but don't make it longer than like 4 hours or anything very long. And also take all the precautions you need. I don't know if those stockings really work. I would wear them if I got pregnant again. I would definitely try everything possible to be safe.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay.
That's a myth.
I think, yeah. So, what we can derive in terms of just flying and traveling is that the only reason which why you wouldn't fly is because it can get uncomfortable because of the nausea and the morning sickness or the all day sickness, if we may call it. It can get difficult traveling that way. That could be a possible issue. Of course, you shouldn't be traveling in your later weeks because there are chances of an early conception, and of course avoid longer flights. You can travel for shorter durations, but longer flights is something which is not advised. So great, I think that's an important piece of information which we've got. So we've talked about a lot of things. We've talked about food, we've talked about exercising, we've talked about alcohol, traveling, and I think so far this has been a great discussion, and it has I'm sure it's going to really help our viewers who are watching this podcast, expecting mothers or mothers who've just conceived, in sort of adjusting their lifestyles or preparing themselves. Just we've talked about the myths. Is there any advice from your end, from your experience, which you would like to give the expecting mothers or mothers who are in the postpartum phase, or just have like a year-old babies? Any advice from your end based on your experiences?
Oh my word, there's so much. we don't have a week, Sonali. We don't have a week. I've got too much information.
Top of
it. Gosh. Okay, I'm just going to keep it general. Try not to compare yourself with other people. It can get you down a lot. Your pregnancy is unique, and you might start showing earlier than other people. You might start showing later than other people. So from every stage of your pregnancy, try to keep that in mind, that you are unique, your pregnancy is unique, your baby's unique. So just because your friend starts showing and she's able to show off her beautiful pregnant belly before you, and you are still flat, it doesn't matter. You're gonna be healthy. You're gonna try your best to keep your baby healthy, and even if you're not able to breastfeed afterwards, some women aren't able to. Your pregnancy, again, is unique, and your health journey and your journey with your baby is yours and your own. Do not compare yourself with your friend or what your mother did or what your granny did when you were growing up. Just go with what feels good with you and what's healthy for you and your baby. And even with time management, try to keep it. I'm coming, baby. Try to keep in mind that your time is what you can manage. And just because someone else seems to be doing everything perfectly and has everything under control, it doesn't mean that you're not doing your best for you and your baby. So comparison can really get you down and can be very disheartening. So throughout your pregnancy and even postpartum, try to maintain that in your mind, that your pregnancy is unique and your journey with your baby postpartum is unique. Yeah.
I won't keep you for too long. I think the baby needs a mother now. So thank you so much for taking out time in between your busy schedule and this wonderful little
You're welcome.
that you're having. And I hope you have many great moments with her, and she grows up to be a really wonderful woman like you are, Ntando. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Have a
You're
nice
welcome. You're welcome. Bye.